Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. The tempo of political activities has increased in recent times, with diverse interests within the political parties jostling to produce candidates ahead of the major race of establishing a new government in 2023. Now, the 2022 Electoral Act is shaping political parties' engagements, and INEC is working in compliance with this act. Now, how are the political parties going to cope with the unfolding events? Is internal democracy being deepened? Now, that's the focus on NTA Tuesday Live tonight. But first, this report by political correspondent Salihu Gwanara.
All over the world, political parties are seeing platforms for recruiting political leaders, both in advanced and developing democracies. From the First Republic to the current Fourth Republic, Nigeria has witnessed the emergence and in some cases demise of more than 120 different political parties. In the current republic, being the longest so far since its inception in 1999, political parties remain the leading institutions shaping governance. Political analysts say the ability of political parties to uphold and enshrine the practice of true democratic ethos is key in sustaining civil rule. However, like in any human society, the challenges associated with deepening and managing internal party democracy in Nigeria impact on the quality of governance. Analysts posit that the concept of internal democracy has taken the back stage, just like in the past, where lack of internal democracy among political parties led to crises upon which the military anchored its intervention and truncated the First Republic in 1966. Still dominant in the political space, especially among political parties, are issues of competing interests being driven by ego, supremacy, godfatherism, party financing, ownership of party leadership structures at all levels, lack of clearly defined party ideology and manifestos, and above all, inconsistency in implementing campaign promises, amongst others, lead to the absence of internal party democracy in many political platforms. As Nigeria prepares for another round of general elections, and as political parties fully commence the critical segment of leadership recruitment processes, panelists on the program are expected to add their voices to the fundamental requirements of political parties in driving democracy in Nigeria to a path of national cohesion and development. In Abuja, Salihu Gwanara, NTA News.
That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me at this point introduce our guests. I'd like to welcome to this program Professor Rufai Ahmed Alkali. He is National Chairman, New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP. Thanks for joining us on this discussion tonight.
Thank you.
I'd also like to welcome to this party this this program tonight, a discussion. It's all about political parties. Chief Osita Chidoka is a former Minister of Aviation and a PDP chieftain. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
It's been a while. Okay. Let me also welcome to tonight's program Dr. Yunusa Tanko. He is a former presidential candidate of the National Conscience Party, and at one time he was chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council. Thanks for joining us tonight.
And good evening, Nigerians.
All right. Well, at the appropriate time, this program will go into the mode of an interactive session, and it means that you can join in the discussion in the studio, but that will be sometime later on in the program. For now, let's begin to take a look at our main topic tonight, which is deepening internal democracy in political parties. And let's start off by seeking to know if internal democracy has indeed taken root in the political parties. We'll start with you, Prof. And what's your take?
Well, first and foremost, let me thank the NTA management for inviting me today for this program. And I can see you still sober, you are still young, very strong, very active, very agile. You have not changed. There must be a magic. You must tell us how we are getting this through this country of today. Well, sir, let's say this, that one, there is a consensus among Nigerians that we want democracy. This consensus is very deep in our minds and hearts. There's also a consensus among Nigerians we want good governance. And so therefore, technically speaking, we can say that Nigerians are not only desirous of democracy, but also desirous of a democracy that works. And some of the engines of democracy, apart from all other elements, are political parties. Because these are the platforms that aggregate members' interests. They are supposed to mobilize members, encourage members to participate at every level. And therefore, they are the major drivers of the party process. Yes, like you said at the beginning of this introduction, you say that Nigeria is lucky to say we have almost 22 years of uninterrupted democracy. But what is happening today is that people are examining the situation. Is it the kind of democracy you bargain for? Is it really what we need? Is it what we want? Is it the one that serves our purpose? Is there any break in social contract between the governed and the governing, or between the political elites and the general mass of the people? If I say there's disenchantment today, I think I'm underestimating the word. There is a lot of anger, despair, and the rest of it. Now, especially within the party system, as we are saying about internal democracy. Ideally, a party is like a mother and a father to all members of the political parties. And they are supposed to carry and treat everybody as equals. Based on the Nigerian constitution, based on the party constitution itself. So that everybody has a sense of belonging. Because the process is not a one-man business. Everybody has a role to play. And that, but I think along the line, most of the political parties that started journey, or the journey started forgetting the direction of things. So, as it is today, the issue of internal democracy, not only internal democracy also, as a political scientist, I would say, is not, a party must be a democratic institution, both internal and its relation to other political parties, in relation to the electoral process, in relation to the general mass of the people. It must be democratic holistically. Even if you have internal democracy, you are managing your processes and they are working properly, but you are not handling the relationship between you and other agencies of government or other agencies of the electoral process, not in a democratic manner, then it is incomplete. Therefore, but the burden now is that even the internal democracy you're talking about in most parties is missing. Largely because people tend to assume that after reaching a point in the life of the party, they forget the principle, the ideals, the vision of the founding fathers of the party. Interest, special interest, selfish interest coming. And therefore what you have is that since 1999, I can say safely that a new type of political elites have emerged. And the way they look at the political process is not at the way the founding father of most of these political parties started. Indeed, even the other political parties that started before independence. Because initially, all political parties were passionate about this country, are concerned about the future of Nigeria, about the future of our people, concerned about the welfare of our people, about security of our people. And then you cannot do it if the parties themselves are not functioning organically. If they are functioning as a faction or fraction of groups, just arrange for convenience, just to capture power and hold on to power, not to service the people.
All right. I mean, that's the analysis of the situation here. Now we'll turn to Chief Chidoka and say, what are your ideas about internal democracy? And as Prof said, a political party should not just talk about internal democracy, but go the whole gamut and be a democratic institution, both internally and in its relations with all other organs.
Thank you very much, Cyril. And like I said, this is a pleasure to be back to NTA. It's taken me 7 years to come back to the NTA. And I'm happy that I'm invited here today. And coming to NTA and seeing Cyril makes it all look like deja vu, like it was still just yesterday. But internal democracy for a political party is almost a contradiction in terms, because a political party is supposed to be democratic. It's looking for power through democratic process. So the presumption is that the political party will have democratic processes internally to resolve its issues, elect its officers, nominate its candidates. There will be clear rules and regulation. But I think that, like everything in Nigeria, something has gone wrong with our political process. And that thing that went wrong did not start with this republic. It's all the way back to the First Republic, when we had parties that were regional in character, parties that originally raised monies amongst themselves to attend the constitutional conferences in London. The party people contributed. The moment these political parties acquired political power in the regions, they turned the regional purse into the party purse. So it then became that whoever controlled the government controlled the funding of the party. The party stopped being a mass movement because in its transition, like the Action Group, like the NCNC, like the Northern People's Congress, the moment they formed government, the attitude of the party changed, because now they had access to government money through kickbacks, through collection. So if you notice, all of 1962, we had the Coca panel of inquiry into what happened in the Action Group. The NCNC had their own issues. In 1983, when Buhari came to power, there was a probe of party funding and all of that. And now in 22 years of democracy, when the APC took over, there was a major concern and probe about PDP's campaign financing. So I'm sure if another party takes over from APC, we're still going to question this. So my point is, where are we going to now go into looking at our party structure, looking at what makes a party to stop being democratic? That for me is the character of the Nigerian state, where whoever is in power automatically controls the access to the largesse. If you notice the Akintola-Awolowo saga, it was because as Awolowo went to become leader of opposition, Akintola was now the premier of the Western region and then stopped funding the party. So that was where the crisis came, because Akintola was in control of the state resources. So now in 2023, what we are witnessing is a situation in 2022 where the people who have access to the state resources are determining the party's internal processes. And that for me is a breach of the democratic experience. It is not a PDP problem or APC problem. It is in the nature of the regulation of the political parties. I have proposed publicly that we need to start a new regulatory framework for the political parties that monitors party expenditure, candidate expenditure, and regulates how you can use state resources for political parties. So, for instance, if you are a president in the US and you use the Air Force One to go for campaign, your campaign is given a bill for the use of the Air Force One, because that's a campaign. You're not doing the work of the president. You are campaigning. You're supposed to have raised money, so your campaign pays for it. But in Nigeria, the moment you become president or governor, you use the state resources, state plane, and fly around the country, while your opponents are busy trying to charter planes, pay for bus, pay for transport to go around. The person in government is moving around. We haven't demarcated government and public office. So what is the problem in the political parties is that so long as you do not have the money to fund the activities of the party, so long as those who fund it will determine the internal mechanism and running of the party.
All right. We'll come to so many other issues, but let's go over to Dr. Yunusa Tanko and put the same question to him. The issue of internal democracy. Well, of course, you had some experience as chairman of Interparty Advisory Council, and so you must have seen what goes on in just about all the parties across board at that time.
Thank you, Cyril, for the question. And then permit me to use this medium to mourn with Nigerians the issue of killing that is taking place in Nigeria, especially those that happen, like killing the soldier with his wife, and then the bomb blast in Kano, and at the same time, the unfortunate incident that happened to Deborah in Sokoto. And of course, all of these are product of our inability to put our acts together as selection of candidates who will rule us so that they can give us the best of democratic system, of which, of course, always start from internal democracy. But here, the topic of discussion is about deepening that particular internal democracy. So first of all, for a lot of listeners who do not even know exactly what the internal democracy is, simply, internal democracy simply means elections of candidates and democratic setting that happen within a political party. It's different from a general election. So, but then it is what that gave birth to what happened in the general election. And there are documents that guides in this particular direction. One, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is number one, followed by the political party's constitution, then some of their bylaws, and then the Electoral Act. And then all of these are the ones that guide any internal democracy. Because for one party, Party A or Party B, Party A may have its own constitution tailored along the line of the constitution, but at the same time, there might be variance what happened within Party B or Party C, i.e., in my party, for example, as a national chairman of the National Conscience Party, we are cultured that anybody that pays money or give any kind of gratitude to any of the delegates is disqualified. So you can see the training. The training is that no amount of money should be used in trying to cajole a candidate or a person to vote for one person within the party. Once you are found to be involved in that, then you will be disqualified for running for any position within the party or even outside. So, and then it varies from other political parties where they will say you must pay X amount of money to run for election. So the discipline between these two make it very, very clear. For those who do not ask you to pay money for them to run into a political office, it means that that person will not use or sell any of his property or get himself involved in any corrupt tendency in order to get himself into position of power. Then there are those, of course, who will have to pay humongous sum of money, like what we are saying now presently, where people have to pay like 100 million. Even when the ruling party was trying to get candidates that will run for the chairman of the party, they had to pay so much money. And so you want to query that particular source of money. How did that particular individual get that particular source of money? So it helped in shaping the kind of thing that you will get at the end result of that political party. So that is one. Then when you look at the constitutional provisions as regard to what it says, as regard to the processes of having a political party or internal democracy, there are bylaws and there are disciplines that are attached to it. Once you've been found wanting, you don't have that particular local standing for you to run for that particular election. But in the present situation where we are, you don't find such discipline being put into place. So
every Tom, Dick, and Harry who does not even have any kind of moral justification to run for election within the party run for election. And then when it ended up that it is he who pays the pipers that dictate the tone, so you will have those who have stupendous sum of money, they can perpetuate themselves into power and run for election. So the end result is what you will find, that you will find that people who do not have the capacity to run for election or guide the party will be the one in the affairs of the party. And these are the end product of what you see. You see godfatherism, you will see involvement in controlling the particular sector. You will find out that the candidate that will end up as a candidate of the political party may not have the prerequisites to be the candidate or even be in a position of power. So those one help to reduce the credibility that you find in this particular system. But going forward, we have seen recently some of the political parties who have been able to actually get some candidates to have pedigree, even though there's some kind of manipulation along the line. A case study is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Everybody knows that he has this particular pedigree of respect, and people love him for his integrity. So a lot of the followers follow him not because he's giving them money, but because of the belief that he will. But even though some have accused that there were money being used, even though in their primary. Like the case now, I've given you a case of the NCP, which is my own party. I've given you a case now of the PRP who run for with the telekawas, people who believe in the system, who now contribute their own hard-earned resources into the party as membership due, so that we collectively do own the party. And recently we've seen the advent of the NMPP under the leadership of Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, where a lot of people gravitating towards him, not because of probably he's giving them money, but because of some of the things that he may have done while he's in the position of power. And so people love him for that particular position. So these are the ways in which democracy has been shaping in Nigeria. Those that collect money and ended up giving us products that may not have capacity to rule us, and those who do not believe in money, who will give us capacity people who have intellectual, whose age is on their side, who knows exactly what they want to do for the people, because they know ab initio they didn't collect money from anybody, and people did not collect money from them, so they will be forced to do the right thing, otherwise they'll be forced to be out of office. So in deepening democracy at its where now, what we need to do is to ensure that the right peg is put in the right hole, i.e., making sure that people are not being cowed or forced or intimidated or manipulated using any form of ways in order to get the people in the position of power. That is, number one, the chairman of the party. Secondly, members of the National Working Committee. And then at the end of it all, who become the candidate of the party. That way we can deepen democracy and make people believe that it is not about the money, but it's about the credibility and the capacity of the person who wants to run for office right from the party before it germinates into the general election, where we will have good rulers, so that the end result will be what we have been seeing, this heinous killing that are happening in our society, the one I mentioned earlier on, and then those who are. So I want to suggest, please, that for all of us who are in the public, because for me, it is becoming so much unacceptable for me to see that they are using Nigerian people as a pawn in the political game, because people are being killed unnecessarily. So every Nigerian should be on alert. Run away from where there are too much crowd. Be alert and be watching, so that you will not end up being used as a scapegoat for those political individuals who does not have your interest in mind, but rather they should be thinking about how to make Nigeria a better place, so that we can be proud and put our place in the community of nations as good Democrats, which I know we have.
Thank you so much. Well, you're referencing a number of incidents, but just to note that up till this evening, that is with regard to the Kano situation, we still had it, that it was mainly a result of an explosion caused by a gas cylinder. Well, that is what we have on records officially for now. But turning back to the issues at stake, as Dr. Yunus Atanku said, who pays the piper dictates the tune. There's a lot of influence peddling, and everyone who is asked about the Nigerian situation would readily point to something that's been known all along as the Godfather factor. But then there's also a group of highly placed politicians who determine, that's going back to what Chief Chidoka said, who determine who gets placed in what position by virtue of the fact that they are regarded as leaders. A number of Nigerians have complained that perhaps the most powerful people in the whole system would be governors of states. They determine, they are leaders of the parties at their state level. They determine who goes to the National Assembly. In fact, many of them decide they go to the National Assembly after concluding their terms in office. Now, we've seen that happen over time, to the extent that someone once made a joke that the Senate was fast becoming the retirement home of ex-governors. Is that changing under the new scenario?
Well, thank you very much. I think Dr. Tanko has spoken very well. And truth must be told that, one of the dilemmas that we face as a people is that you have to understand the context of which these political parties emerge. If a political party emerges as a mass movement with leadership, with vision, with a clear mission and direction, chances are that Nigerians are willing and ready to follow these leaders without spending money. And that's the example he has mentioned. The issue of people like Awolo, when he was having the action group, people were following Awolo not because of his money, but because they believe in him. We're talking about even Sardauna when they were moving MPC. It is because of they believe that he has something to do in the defense of the interests of the North at that time. Certainly, if we talk about the issue of either Joseph Tarka or even Aminu Kano, or what we are now talking about in the case of NMPP today, with the leadership of Senator Rabi Musa Konkoso, that he alluded to. These are people who are passionate about the country. They are passionate about their people. They are ready to serve the country and mobilize. Therefore, the issue of mass movement, when they transform into political parties, then all these issues they're talking about having the relevant instruments, the Nigerian Constitution, the Electoral Act, the guideline for elections, the party constitution, the party manifesto, all the instruments that run a party, they'll be guided both from inside and outside, and the party will be disciplined and organized and will serve the purpose. But if a party emerges not as a mass movement, but just as a vehicle to capture power, then already right from the beginning, it has a faulty foundation. And it's also been observed, most transition in Nigeria, that when you are transiting from military to civilian, initial stages, most people do not want to participate because they are afraid. They don't believe that this thing have future. That's why you hardly see professionals, academics, civil servants, traditional, everybody will be hiding. But after, as the case in Nigeria, after the first election, second election, things started stabilizing. People say, so he's a serious thing. This young man was just was a dishwasher. Now he is a member of South Assembly. He is changing his life. No. Everybody. Now gradually people started joining the parties. Not as mass movements followed by people with ideas, with vision. No, because now it's a vehicle, like I said at the beginning of this introduction, it's a vehicle to capture power. And therefore, those who have advantage now in taking over these realms of power, of course, they have to control all the levels of power. Okay? And they have controlled in such a way that not only that they are trying to use the party as a platform, but now as a machinery, as a weapon to achieve all the objectives. Therefore, you either belong or you don't belong. And therefore, because you say you are a loyal member, you are a hardworking member, you are a dedicated member, you have integrity, it's of no value, of no consequence if you are not going to serve the purpose of the person who is in charge. So therefore, sir, you have, like I said, a new political tribe that emerged. Then now is like more or less creating some dynasties within the system. It's creating dynasties that the father will finish a governor, become a senator, go to a minister, and then his children will follow, his grandchildren will follow, everything. So the power of at the state level is enormous. It's very huge, and therefore you find that the political parties sometimes they are emasculated. Okay, so I believe it's true that if you want to change the direction of our politics, we must have issue-based politics. We must concern about the future of our country. People should understand that there's a way you strangulate the political process, everybody loses. And this is where we are headed now. All these issues that Dr. Yunus Satanko has mentioned, ordinarily, why should somebody take arms to fight the state? Ordinarily, why? There must be a basis for that. It is not just anger and frustration, but the level of alienation must have been gone so high. But now it's not even those people you are talking about, even those who are not armed. Even those who are unarmed, everybody is not happy with the system. So therefore, since we want to have a sustainable democratic process in our country, there's a need for us to take a step back. Why did we make this mistake? I agree with him that it could not be it's not a blame of one party or the other. But you know, whoever carried the greater burden also carried the greater blame. Because you cannot, for example, like use NNPP of today, that we are part of this thing because we are part of the other political parties and we have seen it. And even though there are very good people in those political parties, very good people, but let me tell you, most of them have been emasculated and chased out of the system. Remember, sir, without sounding sentimental, what could drive Professor Jerry Ghana from PDP? Somebody who was a foundation secretary, a foundation chairman of BOT. That is, we went back in 2018. And not only him. In fact, let me tell you, sir, in 2008, when we took over as leaders of NPA, PDP, at that time, the major actors who contributed to the building of the PDP, most of them were outside. Ade Sokoma was outside. Mimi was outside. Solomon La was outside. Everybody was out there because that's why there was a whole committee that was set up to reconcile the party. And then when we took over, we set up the Tubelo Haliroske committee to review that report so that we could now see what we could do to bring back these people back together. So if you can do something that can chase people like that outside the system, now what of people like me and you, sir? Of course, we are not a party member.
Okay. Not a party member. Yeah. Mine is to look at the issues and seek answers to what's going on. At this point, apart from the discussions here in the studio, we have a number of reports, and we'll start off by taking the very first one from Lagos.
As the 2023 general elections draw nearer, key players and political parties have started building structures and platforms for internal politicking ahead of major events. While most of the parties are crossing the T's and dotting the I's towards putting their houses in order to forestall any form of sanction from the umpire, the political space has been dominated by consultations and canvass for support from members of the various political parties. In the same vein, political parties are making sure that they resolve all internal crises and disputes, while the issue of zoning has dominated discussions.
If there's no internal democracy in our political parties in Nigeria, we begin to have problems. One, it will not allow the best to emerge from party members. Two, it will encourage crisis in political parties. And three, it will also encourage litigations.
Unlike in the past, more Nigerians are indicating interest in governance through active participation and leaving nothing to chance, as platforms are being created to accommodate more aspirants vying for different political offices. Major concerns of some party faithful include how strengthened and practicable internal party mechanisms are in addressing likely issues that may arise.
Yeah, what we advocate for is carrying everybody along in politics. The way the internal democracy works is what the leaders of the party advocate for.
You must be ready to take and give in politics. But if winners are ready to take all, my brother, internal politics can never be resolved in the view of the parties. But I would just urge politicians that in everything, you must be ready to take. It should be give and take. It should not be winner take all. If you have that mind and that spirit of that sportsmanship, we are safe. It will be resolved easily without stress.
In the meantime, quite a number of aspirants have declared their intentions to run both at the state and national levels, while some parties have started conducting primaries.
All right, that report from Lagos. Let's take the next one, which is coming from Kano.
39 years after the demise of Mala Aminu Kano, a father in Kano politics, his disciples and political stakeholders made to remember his legendary in politics. What dominated the discussions was the need for politics of ideology devoid of monetary influence.
Yesterday, I bought the newspaper. And the headline was like a prelude to this letter. What was it? The headline yesterday was that the Naira has crashed because politicians are hoping after us. In preparation for the coming primaries. They think of politics in terms of what people do as a matter of sacrifice for the common good of all. They think of politics as something that binds all of us together, so that when it matters most, the difference will be there. They saw politics as a point, winning and means to start, not to start. But now we see it as a means to self-enriching. Nigeria has lost a modernizing reformer whose qualities as an educationist, politician, and revolutionary have been acclaimed within and beyond Africa.
This coincides with a critical time when parties are working towards grabbing the majority of supporters in Kano that has more than 5 million voters, a number that no serious political party will ignore. Scholars are of the opinion that the presence of another party, which though has been in existence, its new momentum is likely to break the initial two-party domination. The situation now in Kano is characterized by movements, political alignments, alliance, and consultations. To observers, the contest in Kano will be tough, with development still unfolding. In Kano, Aminu Umar.
All right, we are being joined on this discussion by Senator Ita Enang. Well, Senator Enang, we'd like to welcome you to this program. Thanks for being with us. All right, let's quickly clarify matters here. We do know that until quite recently, you were Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, but we've also heard that you are running for governorship on the APC, which presupposes that if you're still in the race, you must have resigned by yesterday. Can you clear that for us?
I did tender my resignation and appreciation to His Excellency Mr. President through the Office of the Secretary to Government. So, as at yesterday, I resigned formally as advisor to the President on Niger Delta Affairs. But I want to clarify, I have resigned from the records of government, but I am still, as a member of the APC, and given the role and experience, available and supporting the government in many capacities. But I have resigned. I'm no more on the payroll of government. I am not on the record. And I have resigned to contest for the governorship of Akwa Ibom State on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. And I did that with a lot of gratitude to Mr. President, having served for a little over, for about 7 years in his administration from 2015. I think I was in the very first set of appointments he made. So gratitude to Mr. President. I had resigned.
Fantastic. So that puts you in a very good position to talk about internal democracy among the parties. And of course, you have experience with your own party. So tell us, what's your view about the deepening of internal democracy? Do we see this happening? Has it improved? Are we still faced with the situation where the owners of the party determine who gets what and who runs for what position? And sometimes we do understand that the owners are as a result of those who have the deep pockets.
Very much. I think the question of internal democracy has been a question of deep concern. And this is the greatest of the concerns that forced the National Assembly to go even beyond the powers they ought to have to legislate and rule and make laws on matters relating to internal democracy of political parties. I have had occasion to posit, and I still stand by the fact that the National Assembly has exceeded its powers of legislation, because the Constitution allows the political parties to make rules for itself. The Constitution of the Federal Republic also allows the Electoral Act to be made. It also provides in the Electoral Act certain things relating to political parties. And the Constitution also adds that each of the political parties should have its own rules. After its own rules, it should also have its own regulations. These were all matters which were intended to allow for internal democracy. Now, when the regulations were breached and became and were honored more in breach than in observance, the court intervened. Later, it became an issue where they had to say that these are internal or domestic affairs of the party. And sometimes where the owners of the deep pocket, had take a decision, it binds the members of the party who are actually really the owners. So it became necessary, although ultra vires the powers of the National Assembly, to make rules up to matters that ought to be internal affairs of the party. So matters of internal democracy is very concerning. But I think for the first time we've seen the way it has worked. Even if some of the matters or issues are in court, there is a little bit of taming of the political parties. The actions of INEC has also tamed the political parties. The action by INEC that we have given you, in accordance with the Electoral Act 2022, the date to conduct your congresses and conventions, the date to choose the delegates to the local government congress, the date to choose the delegate to the national convention, the date to tell the delegate to the state congress, the date in which you are to conduct your congresses to choose your gubernatorial, senatorial, House of Representatives and State Assembly candidates, the date you are to have by the congresses, and the date that you have to your national convention to choose your presidential candidates. And whether you are in the ruling party or not, it is the same law that binds you. Therefore, I know that, and I believe that what the National Assembly has done, although it is a lot far beyond their powers, but it has given the parties a lot of discipline. And the question of I own has really reduced. I think that we are likely to soon get to the position where the parties are owned by the people. And of course, you see, the way I joined this conversation and this program when persons were talking about the governors being overbearing in the political parties in their respective states as leaders of the parties, deciding who, when they finish from the governor, from their governorship seats, they go to the Senate, they will send their son to go to the House of Assembly, the other one will be Speaker, they'll send the other one, and they run the hegemony. But I believe that this question of internal democracy and the fact that there are choices. I think we have two strong political parties, but there is a third force rising now, NNPP or so, rising now, which is fast gaining grounds and gaining membership from the disgruntled, from the afflicted, quote and unquote, in PDP, APC, and all that. Moving there and moving to PRP and moving to ABGA and some of them taking otherwise hitherto unknown political parties and reactivating them. This is going to deepen more internal democracy more in the parties, because the political parties are going to know that the members have a choice. Although there is this challenge, I'm contesting for governorship, and I see the intrigue between APC and PDP. I see the question of each trying to watch the others. Where are you taking your gubernatorial candidate from, so that I can either choose from the other side if it give me advantage? If it doesn't give me advantage, can I come to the same senatorial district and choose a candidate but away from where you've chosen, so that I can at least gather votes here? And again, some of them are trying to say, let us conduct our conventions earlier. But what has really happened is that if one party conducts convention, Congress, and chooses a candidate either for the Assembly or the House of Representatives or Senate or governorship, the other party does not have the opportunity of taking that candidate who has either lost in the other side to be its own candidate. So every party must try to strengthen itself. In fact, this is why you even see that there are a situation where somebody is screened and cleared to contest governorship or senate in one political party. But because of fear, he had displayed the screen and the clearance certificate of the other party to contest either for governorship or senate. But he goes secretly or openly to buy the form of the other political party and also attend screening, sometimes without looking at the position of the law that, one, you cannot be a member of two political parties at the same time. Two, under the rules that you cannot just come join a party and become a candidate. There must be certain things, a level of waiver, a level of number of years you have to be a member. And three, that the law, the Electoral Act itself, forbids you from participating in two political parties at the same time within a period of time. So those are details of this. So all I'm saying, we want to say is that the Electoral Act and the action of His Excellency Mr. President has brought a lot of discipline in internal party democracy, such that you see the parties, most parties only had legal departments, but most political parties have internally the scrutiny department. The scrutiny looks at the stage by stage, date by date compliance, so that you don't fail or lose in terms of the timelines that you're supposed to take different actions. And you also see a situation where some political parties, like our party, the APC, is challenged by time. And so it's merging a few of the things, but all it's trying to do is to make sure that it does not run foul of the law. And finally, let us commend INEC.
So far,
because
from what you have said so far, it would be safe to conclude that those practices you talked about, people buying forms from two different parties, would clearly prove that it's not all about service to the people, but about and getting power. So, if we are to move away from that, Chief Chidoka, what are the things that Nigerian politicians and political parties should begin to engage in? Now, I know we talked about finances. In your opening remarks, you talked about party people who get into government now controlling funds, resources, and therefore transferring state resources to the level of party use. What are the sources? What can these parties do to be self-sustaining? People have talked about membership fees, but do these membership fees really carry a political party to engage in campaigning and all other activities raising awareness that we see?
So, back to the central theme of my statement is that there must be a regulatory framework. You cannot leave it to political parties to determine solely how they will go. There must be a regulatory framework that makes it a crime for people to do certain things, and it will lead to punishment, jail terms, and co. The reason I'm pointing this out is that ANC was a mass-based political party in South Africa. 20-something years into governance, you can see what has happened to the ANC. The ANC has led to the collapse of companies in the UK for what President Zuma did with contractors and people in the party. The ANC has lost most of the, keeps losing its percentage of votes every election in South Africa. Because once they formed government, and with little regulation, they devolved to the problems that happen when the leaders of the party begins to be those that has formed the government. So if you want to make sure that political parties thrive, you will look at what has happened in other democracies where political parties are thriving. They are thriving because they know that they cannot take the money from government and use it for political processes. If you do, you will go to jail. So if we don't do that in Nigeria, no amount of talking, how much will anybody contribute? If we know that the governor will pay for everybody going for House of Reps. In some states, some governors bought the form for everybody contesting because we know that he is going to pay for the campaign. So why would I, as a member, contribute my own money? My money becomes insignificant. But if the political parties know and the regulators are serious, to say that we want to see where the sources of the funding comes from, or how much you use for campaign. We did a global study of political parties in PDP many years back, and we saw what parties are spending. If you go to France today, Marine Le Pen borrowed money for this her campaign, and they borrowed money against the cash flow of the party, that membership dues will generate this amount over time. The Democratic Party in the US borrows money during elections and write it off through membership dues and fundraising by candidates. In Nigeria, nobody has been as popular as President Buhari was in 2015, 2011-15. He had large followership. He had people contributing. But in 2019, I didn't hear of any fundraising for APC. Nobody heard of any fundraising. So the question is, we need to put this Chinese wall between government resources and party resources. So if you ask me, the number one thing to do to ensure internal democracy is that he who pays the piper dictates the tune. If the people are not contributing, equal joiners, he's talking about NNP now. The moment they form government in states and everything, you will see the same problem come up again. It happened to even PRP when they formed government. They had challenges with their governors in PRP. It led to the impeachment of a PRP governor in Kaduna, not because he was corrupt, but because they didn't have the resources to have enough members in the House of Assembly. So I'm saying that going into the future, I think that we need, and the Justice Uwe's Commission recommended a separate agency for monitoring political expenditure. So I think we need to go back to the Justice Uwe's Commission report and create that outfit in INEC, whose job will be to make sure that political parties provide audited accounts of how campaigns are run. Candidates should be able to form their campaign organization and be registered under the non-profit laws and allow them to file monthly accounts, how much we raised and how much we spent. Because if you look at the campaigns in some developed democracies, you will see that sometimes some candidates are funding the election. Like Donald Trump, he put in $50 million of his money. And it's reported how he put in the money. You see where the money came from and where it went. But in some candidates, like Biden, he didn't put any dime in his campaign, but he raised over $1 billion. So my attitude is that Nigeria is not exceptional. We are not a different country. Anytime we do not allow the laws to work, anytime we do not create institutions to constrain bad behavior, we are going to get the outcomes we are getting. So my attitude is that we need a regulatory framework to ensure that people who we elect into public office do not become the lord of the manor in running the affairs of political parties.
So taking it from that premise, if I were to go back to Dr. Yunusa Tanku, taking it from that premise, some have suggested those who are elected into government should not be the party leaders. Examples are made of the NPN in the Second Republic, where the leader was separate from whoever was occupying a political office.
Of the party.
Right. The chairman was the party and the chairman was the chairman.
That's what obtains now.
Yeah, well...
No president is allowed to chair a party now.
Right.
But, rules.
Yes, but someone comes out and is a leader.
Yeah.
So, are these just semantics?
It's funding.
Because everything revolves around the leader and not the chairman.
It's funding.
I think during the Obasanjo regime that some of these dynamics started changing. At the point in time, even this during the 70s and the 80s, you find out that once the chairman of the political party speaks, he leads the leadership of the party, and any member who is a political appointee or who have won election still stay on the other side of the aisle, as being that he is just a politically elected person, but yet he's still a member of the party. That gives a clear demarcation, and you don't allow individuals who won under the platform of the party to be at the head of affairs of taking care of the administrative end of the political party. That's supposed to have been made clear. And of course, that has resulted to what you have seen, that the infraction within the people who are in governance getting involved into party administration and deciding who become who at the point of election. And that infringe on the right of internal democracy. And here, of course, we have to give it very clearly that what does the constitution of the party says and what is the manifesto of the party says. When there is a clear demarcation, you must, as a political party, follow the position of your party constitution. Of course, it must not run at a cross purpose with the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because it's number one. So you must make sure that that is put on the roadmap of how internal democracy is being enshrined. But basically, what really happened is that in the process of people wanting to take over power, they practice any kind of undemocratic tendency. One, because they know that the members of the political party are not paying their membership due. When you ask the question as regard to will the membership due anything, APC just told Nigerians they had over 40 million people, members of their party. Times that particular amount of money, to if it's been 1,000 naira per person, you can times in to know exactly how much they will have raised, if that figure is correct. And that is where INEC comes into play here. And I must give kudos to the Professor Mahmoud Yakub-led INEC for standing on their feet to demanding for the membership register of all political parties even before their primaries. This is just to give fact to whether the party actually is existing and then claiming that particular number. Because if, for example, if APC has about 40 million people, as they said, and then every member vote for that political party, nobody will contest against them because they just go home and sleep because they have won election. So that can be justified and be put into the burner when the election is taking place. So that is the reason why that the procedures that have been put, and I want to agree seriously with Justice Mohammed Wade's report, which a lot of us supported. But of course, because the basics of our electioneering in Nigeria and the political umpire in the first place is running at a cross purpose with the interests of the Nigerian people. Because if Party A is in power, he decides who and who become the chairman of the INEC. And at the end of it all, you will see that you will keep on saying that he who pays the piper dictates the tones. Even if the man does not want to do the bidding of whoever put him in power, he will be forced to one way or the other to protect that his office. So if we follow the position of the Justice Mohammed Wade's report, who says that it should bring about publicizing the position of INEC chairman, make it public. At the end of it, you have 3 persons, which of course will be chosen by the Judicial Council of judges, who will now select for you 1 person that will be INEC chairman. And then this particular heinous ways in which commissioners of INEC are being selected, that you have political party members who belong to a political party who ended up being the commissioner in INEC. It's totally wrong, morally wrong. And that gives room that when the pillar is completely faulty, what do you expect from the followers? You will end up having a crooked form of internal democracy, because the law itself, who will end up giving you that political leadership, is already shaking and is not standing on its feet. So we must find a way around it to put the right thing in the right place and making sure that our electoral empire are well stationed and they are within the composition of the constitution and the laws that will show that they are independent of those who are in governance. And that is why, probably because Professor Mahmoud now has no interest in coming back as INEC chairman, so he's trying to make sure that he does the right thing so that we can have a right footing, so that anybody who wants to run for election must have followed the constitution of his party and must have followed the manifestos of their party and the bylaws of the party. That way, they may even start getting the right people in the right place. You end up seeing a person will run for election today. If not that we are, sometimes you just want to find the word to use. Somebody will win election on Party A. After winning and selling the manifesto of Party A to the general public, he will end up leaving that his party and then claiming that he's now moving to another political party, leaving the manifesto he has sold to the populace, and maintain his seat. Where does that one work? It is completely wrong. If you want to leave, you leave that party and then leave the seat. And if you are popular, let us take it again, and then you contest. And that is why majority of the political parties in Nigeria, those who are being called to be smaller political parties, are being shot in the foot. They are not even allowed to survive. And like I give you a case study of my own party. We won election in Ekiti State. But because the person was strangulated, he was forced to go to another political party, and yet we were working so hard to get him there, we lost that particular seat. And then people will call us and say we are not ideologically based. It is wrong. Completely wrong. So the laws must be put in place so that they will protect those who are genuinely interested in giving us a good democratic setting in Nigeria. And that is the reason why majority of the candidates who may be genuine, they don't have this humongous set of money to run for election, can run other political party, and then the emergence of the third force will be confirmed. Because what we are working on is to give Nigerians a new lease of life, where Nigerians who are capable, who have the wherewithal, who have the good intention of Nigeria, to run under political party that is completely different and new, so that we can challenge the status quo based on ideological differences and issue-based politics. That is what we need in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. At this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, the phone lines will be open, and that means that you can get to join in the conversation in the studio. And we'll explore more about deepening internal democracy in Nigeria. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Every one of us is affected by the circulation of illicit small arms and light weapons in our communities. Our beloved ones, breadwinners, farmlands and livelihoods are lost. Our homes are lost. Even young children are not left out. These weapons cause pains and sufferings, devastating our societies. It is our collective duty as every Nigerian stakeholder, religious or community leaders, traditional rulers, or civil societies, and at every level of governance to work with security agencies to stop the proliferation of illicit arms. We must shun the trafficking or possession of illicit arms. We must reject any inducement to help in its transportation. We must report all suspected individuals or groups involved in the smuggling or stockpiling of small arms and light weapons or illicit arms to the nearest security agency for prosecution, as our government is very determined to end this menace. Let us come together and work for safe and secure Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, this is a segment where the phone lines are displayed on your screen, and you can take advantage of those lines and phone in to air your views on what we're discussing tonight, deepening internal democracy in political parties. Well, we always say this every Tuesday. If you do call in and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we always encourage you to go straight to the point when you air in your views. We also encourage you not to spend time on greetings. Just a simple hello is enough. You don't have time. So, well, we have a caller already on the line. Ada calling in from Jos. Hello, Ada, go ahead.
Hello. Very interesting topic. Most of the rankings in the political parties, especially the two dominant parties, is due to lack of internal democracy. as a result of political principles. A democracy without Democrats, which has given rise to gross impunity. So what I suggest here is this. There should be, there should be an open space to allow people to decide who will emerge to avoid.
Well, at this point, let's just be certain that we can hear Ada. In the studio here, we can hardly pick out anything she's saying. Well, I wonder if that's here or from Ada's end, but we can't get to hear what she's saying, and I do know she's on the line. No, I think what we might have to do, Ada, I'm sorry if you can hear me. What we may have to do is to ask you to call back, because if guests here cannot hear your contribution, then they cannot respond appropriately to issues you might raise. So let me encourage you to call back, and perhaps the line would be clearer at that time. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I'm sure Ada will try to call back. Turns out she's one of the regular callers on this program. Okay. We do have another report, and let's get to see this one that's coming in from Rivers.
By INEC guidelines, political parties are to conduct party primaries and submit names of their candidates between April 4 and 3rd June 2022. Here in Rivers State, the two major political parties are witnessing beehive of activities preceding the conduct of the party primaries. The PDP has already concluded the sale of nomination forms, screening of candidates, and election of delegates.
Well, so far the PDP has done very well. It has a target and it has not overshoot those targets. They are bound to be conflict, but there's an internal mechanism of resolving those conflicts.
The APC, on its part, is currently selling nomination forms and set to elect delegates that will choose the party flag bearers.
We expect that the delegates congress should take place across the 219 wards, where delegates will now be elected who will participate in the primaries at the different levels. So everything is moving according to plan.
The undercurrents are rift with alleged perceived imposition of candidates and clamor for internal party democracy. INEC in Rivers State said it is monitoring the developments, stressing that the Electoral Act must take its full course all through the processes.
It is against our instant laws to impose the candidates on people, allow the people to nominate who they want to be in governance, and allow the people to vote who they want to be in governance into power.
Analysts fear possible encumbrances in the event of litigation from dissatisfied aspirants, though some party sources said their leaders are very circumspect to guard against such. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amachiri.
All right, that report from Rivers State, correspondent in Port Harcourt. Now back to the studio. Yes, still looking at ways that internal democracy can be deepened. And let me go to Senator Itainang. Yes, there are party structures. Well, let's assume that all the parties have their structures in place. But you did make mention of something. You said not all members of the party respond in terms of contributing to the party's fortunes. Now, what is the role of those who decide to join a political party officially as members? What role do they play in ensuring that the party's guidelines are strictly adhered to?
I think a lot of people in Nigeria today don't come to join the political parties because there is an ideological leaning to which they are agreed with, to which they agree with, but they come to join a political party because most of them want an opportunity or a platform to contest election, so they don't even care. And now, when they come, some of them have funds, some don't have a lot, but they come only to seek refuge. But there are those who join political parties for the sake of the ideology. I was, when I consulted the party at in Akwa Ibom State, in Uyo, I had a lady who, to my knowledge, I was in PDP at that time until 2013, and it's close to me. And in 2016, I asked her, how are you in APC? He said, look, you were in APC, in PDP. This party, APC, I'm just sweet. I mean, I feel sweet with it. It's not very highly placed, and there are people like that who have that followership, the kind of followership that follows President Buhari, just that ideological difference, the kind that followed Kano, not how much of money. But again, I want to say that I am a little disappointed because in the processes we are going, because there is no question of ideological, not just ideology, of what I will do for the people. Some will say I have money to run the election, and that is just the qualification. And some say I have suffered a long time, and that's just the qualification. They are not going to campaign to say, look, I want to be governor. This is what I will do in education. This is how I will attract funds. This is what I will do in youth development. This is how I'll do in agriculture. This is what the challenge I found industrialization. This is why this industry collapse, and this is how I'm going to revamp it. Those who are running for the presidency, some of them flaunt money, some don't flaunt, some flaunt ideology. But I've not seen, I must apologize, I really apologize, not many of them are able to define in their campaign and consultations what they will do in terms of foreign policy. Some don't think it matters. What will you do in terms of foreign policy? What will you do in terms of industrial? How will you drive the economy?
Senator Itaina, at this point, let me quickly go back to the phones. First caller who came on and we couldn't quite hear her contribution is back online. Ada from Jos.
Can you hear me now?
Good. Let's hope we can hear you clearly now. Go ahead, please.
Okay, hello. Ada is back.
Yes, good. Now, okay.
I said most of the wranglings in the political parties, especially the two dominant parties, is due to lack of internal democracy. As a result of politics without principles, a democracy without democrats, no clear-cut ideology, which has given rise to gross impunity. I suggest that they should open the space to allow people to decide who will emerge to avoid imposition of candidates. People should be encouraged to register in political parties and made to pay dues to avoid a situation where one or two individuals fund the party. Therefore, they influence the outcome of who emerges. People should own the process. This will help to check the excesses of money bags and godfatherism. Then again, we have a problem of zoning. This zoning, if it is not managed well, it can also affect the internal party democracy. Defection is also an issue because money bag defects and hijack the party, ignoring old members, which make them to fight back. And again, sometimes when they win the election, they defect with their seats. So that should be checked. The role of governors as godfathers should also be checked. You can imagine what is happening now. What is happening? Now people are buying forms. They claim that Mickey Mouse and Humpty Dumpty are buying forms for them, 100 million and what have you. EFCC should go after them. Let them go after those Mickey Mouse and Humpty Dumpty that are buying the funds for them. Now they want the extension of time. It's because they have a problem with the internal party democracy. INEC should not skip the date by even 1 day. God bless you. Let's not give on this country.
Thank you very much, Ada. Words. Let's return to Senator Itaina. You were just about concluding when we had to cut off to take that call.
I was just concluding that persons who are campaigning for offices, they should be able to talk about what they will do in different areas of their economy, either in the state or the federal. Now, I haven't heard most of the presidential candidates address the question of how will we, working with ECOWAS, be able to, what will they do differently in terms of foreign relations? What will you do differently? What
So perhaps they should be talking to the party delegates on what they intend to do. For now, they're still aspiring to win the ticket of their parties.
The kind of things I'm thinking that we should be able to address among the presidential candidates. They should also address international issues. Among the governorship candidates, they should be able to address how will you raise revenue? What will you do differently? How will you get internal democracy? How would you get a kind of mass movement? How would you run agriculture? So people don't say this. Some don't even have an idea of what parastatals exist in their states. Some don't have an idea of what parastatals exist at the federal government, which they can relate with. Some don't have an idea of the international organizations to which you can attract either a housing program or an agricultural program. Some don't have ideas of the trust, like the trust or foundations, which can help in running certain programs in their states, which they can attract and work on. They don't just say, oh, I want to be governor. And if you ask them to state policies about government and governance, some are not able. So let us go to a situation where the electorate, the delegates, will ask us in the course of the convention or the congresses, what will you do differently? So this goes to making sure that the delegates to the conventions are able to ask us these questions in the course of our campaigns, and we're able to take that decision, use that to take a decision on who to vote for to be the flag bearer of their parties.
Professor Rufai Ahmed Al-Khali, you do hear politicians say that the decisions they take are based on the demands of their teeming supporters, and it's the people who have said we should do it this way. It's the people who have said we should place such and such a candidate in a certain position. And even when they defect, they say it's the people who have determined that. I want you to look at that. How true has this been the case that it's the people who demand that they tinker with the guidelines of the party in terms of internal democracy?
Okay, thank you very much. First, I want to touch on what my friend Chidoka said, that maybe when NMPP also forms government, we're also going to fall into the same chess piece of what other political parties have done or are doing. We will tell him no. We don't want God to answer his prayers. We are working hard. We have been part of the other parties. We know their internal working mechanisms. We know why most of them are in deep crisis now, fighting each other. So even in the preparation for our primaries now, we are very careful, we are conscious that we should not allow anything to repeat itself.
How about those who say, well, that's all right at the start of it all, but once you begin to take root, then
when you read the bill, you cross it, but now we are planning ahead and thinking ahead. But I think one point that has not been mentioned, I think is also important. So far, most of the conversation at the beginning of these interviews have been talking about laws and institutions, structures, institutions. I think what we have not been able to focus attention on is what we call political culture in our country. We are just having, let's say, 22 years. And now we have a number of factors and forces that are acting against our people. One of them is illiteracy. Illiteracy, when a society is uneducated, it doesn't know its rights and privileges. And therefore, sometimes a lot of people have this hypothesis that I think there is even a conscious at level report to even keep people down, not to even know their rights. There's a conscious effort, because otherwise you cannot tell me that the problem facing Nigeria today, we cannot confront and face it squarely. Secondly, not only the education as education, general education. The second aspect is what we call political education. For people to know, not only that they are educated, they have got a certificate, a degree, or master's or PhD, no, to understand the mechanics, the essence of democracy itself, and where they can place their own position in society. This is also not there. You have the other issue, which is also linked to ignorance, poverty. You know, there's sometimes also people feel that there's a conscious effort for the system by the system to impoverish people so that it makes them dependent, so might become vulnerable and exposed. And by the time you squeeze somebody for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, you go to the polling unit and you offer him 1,000, 2,000, you say, okay, at least it's better than nothing. I haven't got anything for the past 6, 5, 7 years. So the issues here are very broad and very wide and complex. So what I'm saying here is that first, this country must put education as a priority. Two, the issue of political education must be taken not only by the political parties, because in most countries that we are talking about, they have democratic institutes that run to help, educate every person. Even, for example, you're talking about primaries or congresses or general election, conventions, party administration, they educate people to know these kind of things. So what I'm saying that it is this education that is lacking, both the general education and the political education and the poverty. Therefore, we don't have the political culture. Then what part of it is that in the absence of the political culture, then you have divisive politics, because the political elite have failed.
Okay.
That failed.
We'll explore that further.
But let me explain. I don't want it to be hanging, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll explore that further. Yes, we'll get back to that. Let's quickly take in this call. Inangu from Benue has been waiting on the line for quite some time. Good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening. My question is, I wonder what the prof now will. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
The prof has been, I understand, he's professor in political science. I wonder what he would tell the pupils now, or the students, because from what he has been teaching in the class, I think is completely out of place in what we have seen on ground. And again, I also comment on this consensus issue that is ongoing. I think it's also not part of internal democracy, because if I know consensus, the issue of consensus is in most of their guidelines, but it doesn't really speak well of internal democracy, because by the time the electorate or party members are not given opportunity to vote for whoever they wish to be there, I think the whole aim of internal democracy is defeated. And another thing is that the funding, as I have said, I think the funding now is something that's seriously mounted on, as the Mr. Rosita just said, that it's really on who pays the piper to take it. And what is playing out now is just that, because the winners or elected members of the are now the ones playing or decide on what to do because of the resources they are pulling on, they are contributing to the political party. And of course, if they continue like this, the whole aim of democracy will be defeated. Thank you. That's my pitch.
Right. Thank you so much. And well, you had a question for Prof. And as he concludes the bit on political culture, which is
I didn't even get the question very well.
Well, he says his question mostly is, what would you say to your students at this time that the views you have espoused here are at variance with what obtains on ground?
But I'm talking also as a political scientist. We are talking about this. It's a fact of matter.
Yes.
That's what I mentioned. I wanted to put the trajectories.
Yes.
I said general education, political education, and then poverty, and then a absence of ideological orientation of the parties, lack of leadership, of political parties having a mass leadership, mass followership based on a vision. That's why I said all the earlier generation politicians, when they moved, people followed. And when we also started talking about NMPP, people followed because they believe in the leadership of this movement. the Senator Musa Konkoso, and the other group who are in this party. So what I'm saying here is that, first and foremost, if we move away from where we are, well, good. Making the laws like he suggested is very good, perfect. You need the law to curtail excesses. Also, you must make law to ensure that people follow the institution themselves and structure themselves that they have established for themselves. But it is one thing to have a party constitution, it's another thing to have a manifesto, it's another person to implement it. So it is always at the level of implementation where you have this kind of problem. But if you have a political culture, and I think the good thing in Nigeria is that the level of political consciousness is rising very fast. Social media is contributing very, very fast. And then very soon, people will begin to see that anybody who offers himself to offer service to the country, he must be accountable to the people. Because the issue that now you can come and spend 4 years and then come back and tell people lies is not happening. Because already anybody now in seats is thinking how to go back to his village to face his people for the 2023 elections. That's why you have to have a reorganization, reorientation of the people, and the party has a role to play, the governments have a role to play, INEC has a role to play, security agencies have a role to play, because all this kind of violence you also find people fighting over nothing. And it's largely because the political culture is weak. So, and like I'm saying, it's deliberate to allow the people move in darkness so that you can manipulate it and then begin to use. Okay, the last point I wanted to mention was that the political elite has a point. And that's why all this now we are in the process of blame game. You have failed, you have failed, you have failed. But sometimes something like a collective failure. But we want to go beyond that. That's why for us as a party, we are not sitting down and agonizing. We feel that the best time is to move forward. So what is happening here is that the parties must take responsibility to do the education and then also encourage the people. The issue of poverty, unless we address it fundamentally, again, it's a problem. All this man is talking about the issue of a student. I don't know what student is talking about. For example, of course, if the universities are closed down, of course, it's part of this orientation. Okay, so effectively, education is a weapon to liberate human beings, and it must be used effectively as we are moving forward.
Chief Chidoka.
Yes, well, I want to bring it home by saying that democracy is evolving, and I'm happy that Professor Akali is the chairman of NNP. NNPP, yes, because it just goes to show you the capacity and strength of the PDP. The PDP, currently, the chairman of APC is a PDP former governor and senator. The chairman of NNPP is a former secretary.
But you could say that of the other party as well. The leadership in your own party too.
No, they are all PDP. They are all originally PDP.
Who went to APC and came back?
Well, only one is the chairman went to ACN and then came back to PDP, but it was original PDP. So what I'm saying is that the original umbrella.
The thing is, consistently, what is happening is that people are party shopping.
Just hold on a minute. What I like about our democracy is that, despite CPC producing the presidential candidate of APC in Buhari, they couldn't find a CPC person to be chairman or secretary or any of the major positions in APC. Because in PDP, we have gone through a process. We have started from being a party that formed government, to a party that has gone through internal crisis. And I don't concede, it's something I concede generously. But what that means is that all the other parties are yet to go through that experience. APC is now in power. By the time they leave power, when they leave power, they will now go through this challenge again of not having a leader, a Baba, like we had in Obasanjo. Then they will go through a series of process where their governors are the controlling mechanism of the party. Then they will come to the process where they will come together to again build up their party. So what I'm saying is that I'm agreeing with him about the political trajectory of Nigeria. Nigeria is making progress in terms of the fact that PDP continues to be the mother party that produces the major key stakeholders in the political space. And that in producing that major stakeholders, we've gone through our own experience of losing an election, coming out of power, trying to recover from that, maintaining our states. And it is in that process that I'm saying, despite our own experience, despite the experience of the APC, despite the new experience of NNPP, what is required is a proper regulatory framework together with political education and awareness. You know, ultimately, once we reduce the ability of a government in power to use the resources of state to do elections, then nobody will call any party new. Because Macron became president of France. It's a new party. Party is not new because it's the same people that were in this party that have moved to form another. But when they say party is new in Nigeria, it means that they don't have access to state resources. So they will tell you the party cannot win because they don't have resources. And that is the key in Nigeria. Once there's a level playing field where we know that the resources of the state will not play a role, then Nigerians will happily go and vote for any party that they like. New parties will come up regularly.
Okay. Well, we'll ask Senator Itai to respond to the predictions of Chief Chidoka. But before we do that, we'll take this call from James, calling in from Delta. Hello, James. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm very grateful for this program. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the program. And I'm indeed very happy because I do always follow your program. And these people you invited, I love all of them books. They are speaking the minds of Nigerians. And there is one of my colleagues there that said, because of the poverty rate in Nigeria, we cannot even know what is right or do what is right from wrong. When it comes to politics matters, we are saying the right thing and we are doing the wrong thing. Just like what they have just said, they said almost 80% of what we needed in the country. But because of the poverty rate, we could not do it proper. So what my advice is for Nigerians is they should please work with the candidates. Just like the APC now, APC are buying funds for 100 million. How can somebody buy funds for 100 million? It's 100 million. 100 million is not 100 naira. And such person has power to office. What do you think he will do? He will first of all fight for his 100 million. So this process, we are begging of INEC to please work on those people, both the EFCC, to work on these people. Somebody cannot buy a form of 100 million and you think 100 million is 100 naira. I will just take it. Nigerians just take it as a normal thing. My brother is not normal. There's nothing normal there. So I'm begging that each this kind of issue should be discussed or debated time after time. At least the politicians they will amend. Situation where somebody buys from 100 million. What do you expect? So please, I am begging that they should talk to those people. They are all parties. Those people are all party members. They should talk to the parties and to follow the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, James from Delta. Let's go straight to Senator Itai. Two things now which are on your table. First, your response to Chief Chidoka's predictions. And, of course, the last caller has also raised the issue of the huge sum that the forms cost. And, of course, that's with reference to your party.
Let me respond to the last call on the cost of the form. I don't think that the cost of the form is too high. One, it depends on the number of members that we have, members of a political party. Two, the Electoral Act has imposed so much obligations on the political parties which it has to fund by itself. Thirdly, the process of administering the elections, that is the nomination process, is very cumbersome. It doesn't impose any other duty on the aspirants. You don't have to pay for the flight ticket of the panel members coming to conduct the Congress in your state. You don't have to give them hotels because you don't have to give them hotels. You don't have to pay their way back. You don't have to do any other thing. It is intended to make sure that the party can run an all-inclusive and confidence-building internal democracy, internal process of nomination, such that nobody will feel, since he did not have money to contribute to the hotel cost or the air ticket of the panel members, he lost election. So it is not too high. So, and I want to say that when you look at the political obligations placed by electoral on the political parties and the number of members that we are as a party, please, it is very, very reasonable. It is reasonable. Let me not say very, very reasonable. And of course, it was also intended to separate the boys from the men, you know, so that you can know if you are prepared to go for this race that far, you can go. Not just in terms of money. Because, and of course, if you are very popular and very good in your area, some people will buy the form for you and sponsor you. So it's no more how much money you have, but your character, the person in you, will become the capital, which people will now invest by contributing to buy the forms for you. Going back to the prediction, to the accolade by Chidoka, and of course, the accolade again by Professor Alkali, the chairman of NNPP. Let me thank them for the appreciation they have shown to the APC, the APC and the leader of the APC. The leader of APC is His Excellency Mr. President, and that goes for every state, the governor. Now, and also the character, the content, and the person of the national chairman of the APC. You can go to the history of Abdullahi Adamu, his service in the country, his service even before he joined politics, his pedigree all through, his candor when he served as governor of Nasarawa State, his candor and person when he served as member of, as a senator of the Federal Republic, the committees he served, and his duty, I think he was secretary of the Board of Trustees of the PDP. These are all situations where he had been oriented and found the best to be made a member, to be made the chairman of our party. Now, I think the other political parties are jealous that they would have had a person of this pedigree to be their chairman. And so they keep borrowing from the APC to make among their leaders. For my brother Chidoka, I know that he is aware that APC will win the 2023 general election in the presidency and win more than 2/3 of the states, and will form majority in the House of Assembly, in the National Assembly, and in the different state houses of assembly. Because of the way we conduct our processes, there is still the mass movement, supporting us. And I know that NNPP was not formed because there was a mass movement in the content of any person. It formed out of discontent, and it is out of a feeling of no internal democracy, a feeling that they will lose out in the political calculation, a feeling that not because somebody wants to be president, not because somebody wants to control a structure, it is, somebody wants to be president, somebody wants to call it structure. But now it's no more, NNPP is no more for the president. It is just first to create impression in Kano that we too matter. And the whole thing is unfolding.
Come in here, Senator Itainang. We're looking at what's responsible for what people have called political party shopping. But even in the example you just gave as well, it would suggest that there are also internal crises bordering on internal democracy in the APC as well. Yes, I'm saying from even the example you gave, it's evident that even the APC too had its share of internal democracy crisis, which led to members leaving for other parties. So it cuts across, right?
It is as has been defined, and there are things that a lot of people still think that even when the law has changed, they should still do it as the law was in as it was in the beginning. No. The law has changed, and some of our leaders do not want to change their thinking and workings according to the law. So we still command the greatest mass movement. In fact, one of the greatest things that President Buhari and the APC has done is that even although it is not advantageous to us as a party. Most of the laws were in the Supreme Court on most of the sections, but we've complied with it. But Mr. President still assented to it, that let the country have a good electoral law that is acceptable to all. That is what is giving us the mass movement. And in fact, I'm sure you know that NNPP was born even after the Electoral Act was signed by Mr. President. It is the open space and the assurances that President Buhari has given through the Electoral Act assent and that has enabled them to go
let's try to get back to the phones.
parties.
At this point, let's try to get back to the phones, and we have a Kevin from Warri who's been waiting on the line. Hello, Kevin. Thanks for staying with us.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me appreciate the panel of parties. Actually, you well, and most of the panelists speak to the mind of Nigeria. Let me come after the bank and after the harvest, against the 100 billion naira. Let's be frank, we are from Nigeria. He is not contesting at the coming out contesting at the constitution act. We should be frank ourselves. We shouldn't Nigerians and deceive the people. You are coming out of what you are telling now, pass reform for 100 million naira too much. Where people are today, if you go inside you, it can now go to your own state. There are people who can buy it that drink. Don't talk of it, a good meal. And you are here talking a national broadcast decision that 100 million naira is not. We should be frank to ourselves. Politicians of Nigeria today are deceiving and of the far. The majority of people are surprised with what people are going to fight people or to go out to cast our votes. Thank God for the new electoral act ongoing. The majority of you are idiots and you don't want to accept it. Let's talk about partisan issues, not partisan politics talking about. Let's look for people who have this ability to do country and make it to solve for every business to live in and be able to say, yes, I'm in Nigeria, not people every day trooping out that country because of course we bring up pasture. The leaders of today, I don't know the word to do. They have destroyed the country in terms of what we supposed to get. I don't know. Then what I want to say regards to the topic, it is good that this party that in existence today have people. They need themselves with people who are qualified to do this position. We should be ourselves.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin from Warri. Let's just go over to Dr. Yunusa Tanko. If you permit my saying so, as it is with what has been described as the big parties, so it is with even the emerging parties. And so does that not speak to the political culture which Professor Rufai Ahmed Al-Ghali had talked about?
Quite honestly, I'm amazed when I hear the kind of accolade being given to either APC or PDP as it were. And with all due respect, all of the norms and culture that the APC stood for have been broken by that party itself. And I give an example. This is supposed to be a party that was a beneficiary of our own struggle. And I say with all level of patriotism. When Chief Gani Fawemi led the struggle with regard to multi-political party democracy, who happened to be the first chairman of the National Conscience Party, followed by Dr. Sagi Obayoana, and then Comrade Femi Falana, who I took over from. Our struggle was for us to have a multi-party democratic system where every Nigerian has an opportunity to run for election under a free and fair opportunity that may be provided by the INEC. And I say this with a level of responsibility. If you remember clearly, it was the same NCP under the Chief Gani Fawayemi that went to court to ensure that we had the multi-political party structure, which of course the APC is a beneficiary of. And then at the end of it all, we also challenged the court at that time to ensure that nobody pays any kobo to run for offices, because if you remember, you usually pay like 1 million naira to INEC to run for elections in those days. And then Gani went to court and said, no, when you are using taxpayers' money to prepare ground for electioneering and all, you don't need to charge anybody any kobo. So as we stand today, nobody is paying INEC a dime to run for election. These are some of the achievements of the National Conscience Party. So it's amazing for me to hear when people are talking about paying 100 million naira, this humongous sum of money, as justifying it as a case that it is not too much to pay. Where does that go against the issue of fighting corruption? Where does that go as regard to ensuring that the people, of course, have the right to choose the best candidate that run for election? Where, of course, does it go that there is going to be an internet? In fact, at a point in time, we thought that the whole idea was to reduce, as the distinguished senator said, that to remove the boy from the men from the boys. But as it is now, the 100 million naira look like as if they are paying 10 naira. Almost everybody is paying that 100 million naira. Some of us thought maybe it was a kind of an internal gimmick to ensure that they empower everybody so that they can pay more money to the party, so that they can have a humongous sum of vouchers so that to challenge others. But quite speaking, the APC has not been able to deal with all of those particular things that a lot of people thought they were doing ab initio, and that's why they were gravitating towards them. And the case of what is happening in Kano is a total show that yes, people are totally not happy with the government of the APC, and they are taking their faith in the new political party which is run by Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso. So nobody should allude to the fact that probably it's a creation of probably disgruntled element. No. It is a case of people thinking that, look, who will bail us out of our situation at the moment? And that is the reason why a political movement like ours, which is the National Consultative Front, is galvanizing all forces, those who are interested in taking Nigeria out of the wood, so that we can run together and fight for this country and give platforms that Nigerians can run under. And this conglomerate contain with all of the other political parties, SDP, NCP, we are reaching out to everybody, NMPP, the Labour Union, we must fight for the soul of this country, and we cannot continue to justify some of these particular humongous expenditure that have perpetually put the Nigerian people into poverty.
All right. At this point, Dr. Yunus Tanko, let's get back to the phones. This might be our last caller tonight, Innocent, who's calling in from Abia. And once we've taken that call, we'll come back and ask, I guess, to all round of in response to issues that have been raised, but with an eye on the original theme, which is deepening internal democracy. Because as we have agreed here, virtually all the parties have had issues with internal democracy. Let's go over to the phones. Innocent from Abia. Hello. Is Innocent with us? Innocent, could you speak out?
Yes, I'm innocent.
Right, go ahead.
Hello? If I want to emphasize on the NR, saying that it's okay, 100 million is not expensive.
Yes, that's a question. You listen to yourself. You still have your TV turned on, so it looks as if you're listening to the
Is that what we call before the president got stomach?
Okay, well, at least the first part, to me, it seemed as if you asking Senator Etainang to justify his earlier statement. So we'll give him the right of reply to that.
Presidential candidates. The 50 million is for gubernatorial candidates. The 20 million for senatorial candidates and 2 million for House of Assembly candidates. When you consider what you have to will have to take to run the nomination processes, and even what you will use in campaign itself for the nomination is more than that. So it is not every person that is paying 100 million naira. Now, if you also talk about the 100 million naira for the presidential candidate, you will also know that they are all coming for convention in Abuja at the Federal Capital Territory. There will have to be many committees. Those committees will have to be funded, and those committees will have to be run in many ways. You'll have to pay for the Eagle Square. You'll have to pay for the hotel that some of these persons will stay, and so on. So if you have about 10 candidates, that's about a billion naira, and it is not enough to run that process. So it is intended that the process of primary should be self-funding. I'm saying it's not too much for presidential candidates, given the cost of running it without putting pressure on the party members and on the party and on the delegate that will come for the election. I hope I'll still have right on when we are doing the conclusions. Please. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're winding down now on this discussion, and so would ask our guests to each make their closing remarks on the matter we've been discussing and how the question of internal democracy can be entrenched. And the political culture, Prof, you talked about. Let's start with you as we wind down.
Okay, quickly, sir. I think we also have not been able to, because of time factor, have not been able to stress two things. Officially, constitutionally, Nigeria is a multi-party democracy. And but when you talk about internal democracy, you're always looking at the federal level. At the state level, sir, let me tell you, there are states that are running one-party states. And there are many. I don't want to talk to the one that is close to my friend. You know? For all years, only one party that has been running those states. He's also a victim of that. Very big victim. Because he's good, he can do well. But look at it, one party state. So there are many states that since 1999, there are no gray areas for other political parties. That's one. So if you want to deepen internal democracy, then multi-party democracy must be universal, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level and at the local government level. Secondly, the issue of also local government is that is the worst arm of the whole democratic process today. Because in every state now, when there is any local government elections, then whoever is charge of that state, he will carry everything go, including the chairman and councillors and everything. And then they will not blink an eye because they feel also is internal democracy for themselves. So if you are living a local government now, where there is no competition, no control, no supervision, no opposition, which state of the country where local government will go and say opposition, active opposition in local government? They are non-existent. So what is happening here is that these areas also have to be addressed. Of course, I'm very sorry to say to my friend Etanang that he's talking about APC. I'm sorry to be very specific now. The APC is a mass movement. He was talking about the past. The time has changed. The mood of the country has changed. People are bitter and angry, and that now they are looking for change, the real change, authentic change, and that's why NMPP is here to deliver. Because for a long time we have been looking for an option, an alternative, and the alternative is here.
Right.
And we must use it.
We're fast running out of time. Chief Osita Chidoka, your closing thoughts.
Well, I've been listening with shock and trepidation when they say 100 million naira.
It's not a big deal.
It's no big deal. Well, I can understand it because the growth from 27 million in 2014 to about 100 million in 2019, the percentage growth is almost 263%. Buhari cried out in 2014 that 27 million was a lot. And in 2019, under his supervision, the 2023, they're charging 100 million. What I can only compare it to is the extent our national debt has grown. The extent that poverty has grown in Nigeria is at the same level as this growth in APC's nomination fees. So I think for APC people, it will not matter because our national indices have all grown in the wrong way at about the same pace. But more importantly, he said APC is a mass-based party, and that's why they continue maintaining it. In my state, Anambra, the governorship candidate of APC scored 230,000 votes in the party primaries, and in general election, he barely could make 43,000 votes. So the 233 APC members disappeared before the election. So this is to show you that, like I said, progressive parties, APC has embraced capitalism. They've become the new bourgeois party. They are now the party of the bourgeois. The bourgeois are such that all the ministers who could afford 100 million, and some have paid it and have withdrawn from the race. So they have dashed the party 100 million naira. Okay. And this is tragic in a country where people are finding it difficult to feed and to be able to eat. So my take is that to strengthen internal democracy in Nigeria, we need strong regulatory framework, we need multi-party democracy, and we need institutions that will make sure that both at the federal and state levels, democracy is allowed to thrive.
Well, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, our time is spent, so we just ask you to quickly round off, and then we'll do the same with Senator Itaina.
Will say with regard to issue of deepening democracy, I'm asking Nigerians, especially the younger ones, they should own the system, go into the political party, take membership forms, run elections. No matter how the challenges are, make sure you run election within the system. And there is one thing that everybody needs to know. If you are joining a political party, you must know what it has to do with the party constitution, vis-a-vis the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the manifesto of the party, and the bylaws and the Electoral Act. You must be well armed with those important documents. That will guide you when you are making decisions in the party level. Because if you do not be part of the level, you are only allowing other people who do not have the capacity to run for election to continue to rule you. May God help the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We have to push this in order to be fair to all. Senator Itainang, in less than a minute.
I want to say that APC is the party that has mass movement and mass followership, and that is the party that's why you see most members in the National Assembly are defecting to the APC, and most governors are joining the APC. And with APC, when you compare all other political parties, is the party that has candidates and aspirants in more than all in all the states of the federation. So APC is a party that has mass movement and mass followership, and you'll see it in the elections. Look at the number of members in their register and every time.
Well, it is on that note we must round up this discussion and say thank you very much to Professor Rufai Ahmed Al-Ghali, National Chairman, New Nigeria People's Party. We thank you for coming. Chief Osita Chidoka, former Minister of Aviation and Chief Leader of the PDP, we thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Dr. Yunusa Tanko, we appreciate your being here with us. Dr. Yunusa Tanko, former presidential candidate of the National Conscience Party and who once was chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Thank you. And of course, Senator Ita Enang, until lately Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, who is running for governorship on the platform of the APC. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you. And we thank you for being part of this program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.
Yes.